Hey everyone, this is Jonah Johnson with you for another edition of JJ in the Field.
Hey guys, Jonah Johnson, Sales Agronomist with PCT Sunrise. Today we are in West Central Ohio, and I've been getting a lot of calls on some yellow soybeans. So, this time of year we're hoping beans are starting to, get into the flower and pod filling, and some of our more mature beans starting to fill seed. But as we look, and I got some great aerial photography I took with the UAV this morning, guys are starting to see in pockets of their fields that are turning yellow. So there's many things that can cause beans to turn yellow this time of year. So you think about, sometimes there's guys that are playing a really late application of glyphosate, and when you get some overlaps of sprays in the corners where guys back in, you can get yellow flash in beans as they're metabolizing herbicide chemistries. We can get from soybean cess nematodes. We had historical wet spots in the field. We can get yellow flashing in the beans. But a lot of what we're seeing right now is where we've had wet spots, compacted spots. Also probably seeing some soybean cess nematodes showing some of their feeding, which is causing some of this yellowing as well. So, there's been, unfortunately, not a lot of clear-cut answers in 2020, but in our example today, we're looking at beans that had very low nodules. And some of the fields I've seen have had no nodulization on the beans. And you think about beans, we never consider adding nitrogen to our soybeans. Some of the guys we work with that are kind of in those high yield management situations, they'll add nitrogen late in the season to help that late seed fill. But in regards to what we're looking at here in Ohio right now, is soybeans that didn't have any nitrogen production because of nodulization either did not occur, or they did not get set, or just didn't take off on those plants. So you think about a 75 bushel soybean crop uses almost 400 pounds of total N. So you think about, if we don't have nodules and we get so much nitrogen from organic matter, so if you think about if your field, depending on what your organic matter percent levels are, if they're lower levels and we didn't have successful nodulization, we're going to have a separation in that nitrogen need and demand by that soybean plant. So hence why we're seeing some of these beans turn yellow. And so behind me, we have several pockets in this field, and pretty dramatic to show, where water sat in this no-till conditions early on exacerbated what we're seeing now. So AJ helped me dig some plants this morning. Are stress beans with very low nodulization. And if you just notice a sheer height difference here on my left or your right, here are beans that are in the green pockets, and you'll see that in the aerial pics I'll insert. But dramatic differences in regards to some of these plants. And so as I bring these plants closer, you'll note here that very low nodulization that happened on these soybean plants. So as you visually look at these, they don't look terrible. But when you see them from the air and when you see them compared to beans in the green spots that had active nodulization, there's quite a dramatic difference. So typically we should see a cluster of nodules. Now there are a couple, but very few. And that's what's led to some of these shorter beans, less pods, less branching. So now if we move over to the beans that were in the better locations that did nodulizate, we can note a much more robust root system, more active nodules. Here's a great example. All the auxiliary branching that had all these different nodules. We have a bigger girth of stem and much more biomass above ground. When we get in these situations, growers are asking the question, is there anything I can do to remedy this situation this late in the season? And so yes, you can actually. So Michigan State did a study several years ago where they looked at that very question. They had a lot of big pockets in fields that were quite dramatic, kind of similar to what's behind me right here. And they looked at different nitrogen rates of applying as a rescue treatment. And so in this situation, they found employing anywhere from 60 to 70 pounds of actual N. And in the study, they used urea. So that's about 130 to 150 pounds of urea product. And they applied that and were able to recoup almost 10 bushel per acre from this emergency type rescue treatment. And so will that work? The chances are very high, as long as we have a rain to get that incorporated in the ground. And that's kind of the wild card, because right now, in the next 10-day forecast, it's quite a wild card on what to expect rain-wise. If you think about nitrogen solutions, UANs, you have to be careful there because you can burn the foliage. The other wild card is, are we going to actively run down crop as we apply that dry product? And so a lot of times our sprayer tracks are much wider than what we can physically throw urea. So you may end up knocking more plants down and reducing yield mechanically there. But in regards to if you can go in and try to target some of these fields, you can actively bring back some of these beans. And so will you get a 10 bushel response every time? You know, the weather's going to tell, but that's what that study showed. Now on timing of the beans, their timing showed between R1 and R2. So you think about first bloom to full bloom. A lot of beans in Ohio are already past that in Ohio, but Kansas State did a study on the very same topic and found they still got a response into that advanced R3 when we have small pods. So can I see a response later? I think there's a great possibility, but will it be as big as those double-digit returns that Michigan showed? That's the wild card. But we just want to show you what we've kind of found here, and a lot of calls, and very same story across Ohio. And you know, we didn't see many cysts visually here, and we thought about sending some samples in, but something we also did here this morning is we went out in this square of the field, measured off 1/1000th of an acre, and applied this similar fertilizer rates for on an acre basis, and we applied urea. And then we're going to check back here in about a week or so, and you know, hopefully we get a rain event and see if we incorporate some of it in, and if we can bring that square that we employed out there and bring those beans back. So if you have further questions, feel free to reach out to myself or any of your ASA here in Ohio. And for PCT Sunrise, this is Jonah Johnson. Thanks for watching.